Is Damian Monticello. My day job is Director of Enterprise Hospitality and Event Services with GuideWell. It's also my pleasure to serve you this year as your SHFM President. While everyone is still joining us, I do want to go over a few housekeeping notes for you. Please check to make sure that your name is represented correctly. To change your name if you need to, click on the Participants tab in your toolbar on your Zoom window. Next, you can hover your mouse over your name in the participants list. On the right side of the Zoom window, click rename and then enter your name the way you would like to have it shown here so we know who you are. And when we get to the open forum part of today's session, it'll help us be able to recognize people who would like to ask questions. While everyone is muted at this time, to help minimize background noise, we do definitely want to hear from you. That is the purpose of these sessions. So after we have our committee reports, we will open it up for you to help join in the discussion. We'll use the raise hand feature since we're using the Zoom meeting function today. So you can either raise your hand to ask a question or drop it into the chat. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, the town halls, what are they? Well, the town halls were born out of feedback from you, our members, which came out of work done by one of our committees this year within the membership marketing group. So we're holding these town hall meetings quarterly as a way for us to be able to communicate directly with the membership about what's going on within SHFM and to give you an opportunity to ask SHFM leaders throughout the organization whatever questions are on your mind. So we typically have one or two main topics that we will lead off a conversation with, but Q&A is open to those topics or whatever other questions you may have at that moment. So I do also want to let you know about some upcoming events that we have here coming up at SHFM. On November 16th, we have another installment of our SHFM Industry Insight series. This session will discuss technology hacks found to overcome the labor shortage and entice new employees and new employment engagement with brag-worthy amenities. We also have an in-person Chicago local at Whirly Ball coming up on November 18th. And lastly, the SHFM 2021 National Conference is right around the corner, Monday, December 6th through Wednesday, December 8th. It will take place in my hometown of Amelia Island, Florida at the Omni Amelia Island Resort. The conference is definitely shaping up to be a fantastic event and is really going to, I think, help bring us all together for the first time in a long time. And we can't wait to see as many of you as possible in Amelia Island in just a matter of a few weeks. At the end, we are going to also have a sneak peek about a very exciting conference activity. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We will drop a link to all of our upcoming events page info in the chat. And you'll see that pop up shortly. So thank you for indulging me on that info on the upcoming events. I do want to mention another new way to connect with SHFM, and that is to listen to the newly released Served by SHFM podcast. The podcast is available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Stitcher. The next episode will be released on Monday. So if you haven't listened to the first, go out there, find that on your favorite podcast platform, do so. Make sure to listen and make sure to subscribe as well. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into our committee updates. We'll be hearing from 6 different SHFM committees as they share a quick overview of what each committee has been up to this year and what's on their horizon for them as well. And we're going to start that off with Raquel Weiss-Fusco. And Raquel is going to give us updates on the Brand Awareness Task Force as well as the Industry Advisory Board. Raquel?
Okay, hello everybody. I did see one message coming through from Carolyn. Thank you, Carolyn. If everyone can, just make sure you guys are on mute. That would be really helpful. So I have had the privilege to lead the Brand Awareness Task Force. Its first year as a committee in the organization. Damian came up with this idea and we're running with it. So really the purpose of this brand awareness task force is kind of what it sounds like, making our brand, bringing awareness to the industry. And we didn't want to just make it, it's not so simple. So we've had some incredible appointed members on this committee work together to really brainstorm and come up with how are we going to let it be known about this fantastic organization. We are the leading name in the industry from an organization standpoint, bringing together so many people across the industry, suppliers, operators, manufacturers, clients, and more. And how are we getting in front of people and letting them know that? Also internally, how are we sharing our brand internally? How are we reaching our members and letting people know what is going on? So over the past 10 months, the real goal right now is to, I don't want to say start small, but really focus on what the mission is and how to execute that. And so behind the scenes, we're working on increasing the brand awareness by developing a plan to establish effective brand strategies, create core positioning and messaging, as well as recommending tactical steps to execute these activities. We're looking at who we are. We're looking at who do we want to reach? Who should we be reaching? Who are our relevant targets? What we also have done is we're working on creating a speakers bureau. Who's going to be representing us and speaking on behalf of the organization, whether it be at external events or internal. So lots and lots of great things coming from within the brand awareness task force, and a lot more work to be done. So we're just getting started. We're just hitting the surface right now.
Thank you, Raquel. I think it's definitely some great momentum from the brand awareness task force this year. Like you said, a lot of it behind the scenes, which will definitely be visible by all, I think, in the coming months and especially next year. So if you don't mind, can you give us a bit of an update as well on what's been going on with the Industry Advisory Board?
Yes. So the Industry Advisory Board, for some of you who may not know, that the IAB are appointed or elected suppliers from across our industry. Experts and professionals are coming together to share their insights, what they're seeing across the industry, innovations, trends, topics. It's really your top suppliers giving their knowledge to the rest of the organization, and we all take a lot of pride in that. As Damien did just mention, we are going to be having an industry insight session on November 16th at 1:30. Again, it's really talking about technology and how technology is being used to bring about employee engagement and dealing with the labor shortages and all of that. So we're always trying to come up with different sessions to really hit the needs of all members, not just, for one specific group, but we're always really trying to focus on hitting the needs for all. The most exciting one to talk about at the moment is the Hunger Games. That's going to be in person. IAB is very proud because we are the ones that bring the Hunger Games to you. So our little national conference plug right now, make sure you sign up, because again, there's a lot of really fun new events to be had at the Hunger Games. So if you're signed up for conference, make sure you sign up for the Hunger Games, because it's also, the proceeds go to a charity, which is Gracie's Kitchen. I don't want to go on and on because we do have Bob and David on the call who are doing such an amazing job putting this together, and I don't want to take that spotlight away from them. Do you guys want to chime in or say anything?
We'd love to, Raquel.
Okay.
As Raquel said, our charitable partner this year is Gracie's Kitchen, located in Nassau County. And a fun fact about Gracie's Kitchen, where their facility is housed is actually the grade school that Damien went to, when he was a child, and he really helped us find this group. This group supports children, people returning from the military, people that maybe have been victims of domestic abuse, really anyone that needs a hand up in the community, providing food and services, etc. As Damien can attest to, this is truly a grassroots organization, 100% volunteer. They're going to be at the Hunger Games, so make sure to introduce yourselves while we're there. So I would say it's such an amazing group that we're partnering with, and we're truly going to be making a difference in the communities that we're working with. While I have that platform, I have to thank Amy, Natalia, and Brittany for helping us on the marketing side. You three are amazing. Really appreciate all your work on getting the message out. Bob?
Yeah, and as Raquel mentioned, we've got some fun events, right? We're building off of everything that Mike Johnson and Shane have built over the years, but some fun events planned for everybody. As well as the fact that when you do sign up for Hunger Games, you realize that this is the best networking event we have at SHFM, right? It gives you the ability to be intertwined with different teams, compete, have fun, but above all else, enables us to be able to give back and help those folks in need, right, in the hospitality industry, as well as the surrounding communities where we're having the national conference, which I know is a big part of each of your lives. So that's one great thing about what we do, in addition to be able to be competitive and have fun and indulge in a couple adult competing in those games. But I would also say, when you do sign up for conference and you're on the website, please don't forget to check that you're willing to purchase the $5 pin. It's a Hunger Games pin. It's new this year. Those proceeds go directly to Gracie's Kitchen as well too, to benefit them this year. And fun fact about Gracie's Kitchen, Damien's a fan of it. David's a fan of it. I'm a fan of it as well. They have zero overhead. 100% of the proceeds that they bring in go directly to helping those folks in need. So it really does make a big difference.
Thanks, guys. And that wraps it up for me.
Thank you, Raquel, David, and Bob. I can't wait to get everyone together and help spread the word about Gracie's Kitchen and the fantastic work that they've been doing. Next up, we will turn it over to Sumi to give us an update on the Diversity and Inclusion Council.
Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm Sumi DeBenedettis with PepsiCo, and I lead the Diversity and Inclusion Committee with Victoria Vega, who is not available today. So I'm covering off. Just a really quick background on our committee. So we've been in existence for a couple of years. Victoria helped start the committee during her presidency. And this year I started leading it with her, taking over from Donna from Sodexo. And what we did was we started to organize our activities in 3 areas. So leadership, knowledge, and community. So just kind of think of that as our framework. And I'm just going to give a quick update on each plank. We have about 50 members, which is awesome. And we've kind of organized into those 3 areas so that we could get focused and have some deliverables. So for leadership, we have Bobby Capps and Matt Smythe from Aramark leading that. Danny, who everybody knows, is very involved. And one of the big things that they deliver this year is the mentoring toolkit. So that is in its final stages and should be available around conference time. And then they're working on a couple other things. One is an affinity group toolkit as well. So that's, again, in development. We're going to start out with a few affinity groups. They're kind of like ERGs, so employee resource groups. And we have a couple interest areas that we've started to look into, which is disability and veterans. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. They're also working on a supplier diversity toolkit. And we have another part of our committee, which is around community, and supplier diversity has been a part of that. But our committees might be maybe redefined over the next couple of months, but maybe we'll go down to 2 committees. But we do have that effort going, and we're starting to have conversations around what that toolkit looks like, and hopefully more to come with a session probably early next year. And then our second plank is knowledge. So it's really, kind of bringing more content to our organization. We had a 3-part series called Conversations That Matter last year. And we continued that. We have 2 that happened this year, one over the spring that was centered around neurodiversity. New big words that I'm learning. And that was a great session. We actually have one of our panelists is Stephen Beer, and he joined the organization. He's with Popcorn for the People, so he's a diverse supplier, employs autistic people who are on the autism spectrum. And so it's been really great because we've been able to welcome, bring in new members and focus on areas that, I guess one thing that we've done is there are certain topics you think of when you think of diversity inclusion, but we're trying to figure out topics that need more of a spotlight or might be just more, there's more of a need to address. So the second session we just did was around inclusive hiring. And we had some great speakers from Indeed and Wawa. And I forgot to mention that the committee is led by Jessica Tanton and Z. So they've done incredible work with that. And then we are pushing our third session around allyship to early next year. And then finally, our community committee is led by Danny and Ben. And Genevieve and Gary are a big part of that committee as well. So, it's been sort of like, 5 or 6 of us on that discussion, but the social calendar has really been driven by Danny. And that is kind of probably one area we need more help with because everybody has their day jobs or are switching their jobs. And it's a lot of heavy lifting in terms of identifying people to spotlight, doing the write-ups. And so that's one thing we want to focus on, moving forward. Danny did a great job getting us started and we, had some great content going. I would just say that we need a little more help around that. So if anybody loves, to be on social media or loves to write or recognize people, this is like the perfect job for you. We did a spotlight just last week on Sheila Martin on breast cancer awareness. And we have Veterans Day coming up. We have all these different heritage months, holidays, interest areas. And we encourage you to nominate someone or yourself because we don't want to kind of approach people and say, we know you kind of fit this group and would you be spotlight? It's a little bit awkward sometimes. And we want to make sure that we're really celebrating all of our members and the broader community. So it could be even a diverse or minority or women-owned business as well. And then other components, I touched on supplier diversity. So there is a toolkit in the works. And then in terms of volunteer efforts, so community is all about engagement, and we're trying to work with the other committees as well. So one item I just want to call out is a veteran focused initiative called We Care that Mike Johnston and team are going to be launching. So you'll see an email soon about that. And I think Janine will be talking about that on the foundation portion of this call, but he's been partnering with Ben and Nick from Grubhub and Justin on figuring out a way to deliver, it's like a grassroots effort to pull together care packages for those on active duty. So I think it's a great initiative. We're looking to do more, and just kind of along the lines of this whole affinity group, what we're thinking is that some of these really awesome activities can live within these affinity groups. So if you're very passionate about a certain type of group, like we have, most companies have a Black group, a Hispanic, Asian, veteran, disability, women. So we want to get after all of them, but there's only so many of us. So we're going to start with a couple, as I mentioned, and go from there. But if you're really wanting to kind of be involved, let us know. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Sumi. And a great segue for the next person up on our docket today, which is Janine Cosgrove Albert, talking about the SHFM Foundation.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all well. I am your SHFM Foundation chair. The SHFM Foundation is the philanthropic arm of our organization. It is a group, a committee of people who are elected and appointed to the SHFM Foundation board. We have some great volunteers, but I always like to take a minute to identify our current board members for the foundation: Billy Fleming, Ed Kraus, Curtis Lease, Danielle Mason, Tim Melberg, Carolyn Malia, Corey Silverstein, and David Wickstrom. I want to point all of them out because the last 10 months have been a really formative time for the foundation. We've taken a lot of time to really deconstruct and analyze and review things that have worked and have not worked for the foundation. So we're really going into next year with some actionable items. We are finishing up our 3-year strategic plan, which is also helping for those actionable items to come into play. And we are really focused on education as a pillar. And right now that means, funding some courses at colleges and universities that have obviously majors in hospitality and food management. We are especially focused on student chapters and fostering the current chapters that we do have in existence. And we have taken a special focus on looking to set up SHFM chapters at HBCUs. Lastly, we have been focused on scholarshiping students and some faculty to attend events that we have, because once they come to an SHFM event, to know us is to love us, and that is in person, of course. We're also focused on the military. We unfortunately did find out that the Hennessy Military Traveler will not be in person again this year, but we are taking those funds that we have set aside for that program to provide scholarships for service people to attend our events as well. And in particular, this year, we have invited Chief Tayshawn Taylor, who Mike Johnston met on his Hennessy traveling program, to attend our national conference in Florida. We have already begun so many great talks with Chief Taylor about creating a bridge with the Air Force and with SHFM. And we really have just really continued to look to see how we can engage and incorporate them more into our organization. We will be providing some of Chief Taylor's top students with scholarships and as well as memberships to attend us. And we do also have to give a shout out to Laura Lozano, who was our 2019 military traveler, because she helped keep a lot of our networking and contacting alive as well during COVID. The other area that we're looking to do to engage people and keep the pipeline of our industry filled is by engaging displaced hospitality workers. That is something that's a little bit newer to the foundation as a pillar, but something we're excited to work on and incorporate more. We lastly need the money to do all these great things. So we're very focused on fundraising, and we're looking just to fundraise not only within our organization, but to do events that are outside of our organization, or where we can involve other people to contribute to the foundation, such as our Pie Challenge, which was an idea conceived by David Wickstrom, and it is currently underway. I highly encourage you all to get involved, to pie someone. It's run like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. We have a list of people that are on the SHFM and the SHFM Foundation websites and social media platforms. You can see all the people who are nominated. You can donate to them getting pied. You can nominate people getting pied. There's no amount too small. We also have a lot of other great fundraising ideas in the works, which does include a foundation gala the night before critical issues in the spring. We've also been fortunate to receive some donations through At Your Service. The Hospitality is Here program was very instrumental in raising money to help organize, funds to put towards displaced hospitality workers. And that was really a great call to action, and we're excited about those funds. And then lastly, we're very excited to announce that our annual SHFM Foundation golf outing will be at National Conference this year. So we're super psyched to host it and have it there, and can't wait to see you all in December at Florida.
Thank you, Janine. Great update there, and a lot of fantastic work that's going on in the foundation this year. I can't say enough for the work that you and everybody else involved with that part of the organization has put forward. Next up on our list is the Locals Committee, and that is chaired by Bob Faulkner. So Bob, could you give us an update on what the locals have been up to this year?
Happy to do so. So for those of you who aren't familiar with who the locals are or where the locals are, so we're in Chicago, Boston, Florida, California, DC, Charlotte, Philly, Atlanta. pretty much all over the major metropolitan cities of the United States. And what our job is to make sure that we keep the group connected in and outside of conference, but also to provide a platform to bring learning activities right to your local area. So by way of example, there may be some folks within your area that are interested in sustainability or whatever the case may be. We get a group together. We usually find an interesting or a new location for us to meet at. The location is sometimes a draw. We get involved with some folks that can provide some educational content that is meaningful to our local chapters. And we host an event, and usually there's food, there's adult beverages involved. There's a lot of networking that goes on. Sometimes there are holiday parties. The holiday parties in most cases this year are going to be taking place at conference, being that most of the holiday parties are typically planned in the first couple weeks in December, or there could be some after holiday parties that take place in January for the for the locals, as well as Chicago, with the local that I'm a part of. We did have some great events to speak of this year. The one that really stands out in my mind is what Philadelphia was able to do at their local, right? So if you weren't a part of that, their pirate ship, I will call it, the Moujalou activity that they had, where they were able to go out and have some fun and get together as a group. I think it was a well-attended event, obviously hosted by all of the folks who are part of the Philadelphia local committee. If you do get a chance, Damien mentioned at the top of the call about November 18th in Chicago, which is a Thursday. We're having our Chicago local, and we're doing something called Whirly Ball, which I've come to realize is something that's very prominent in the Chicagoland area, not necessarily as recognized throughout the rest of the United States. So what Whirly Ball basically is if you picture electronic go-karts that go about 4 miles an hour in a high ally, and you're trying to throw a ball into a target and get points, that's basically what it is. And if you've never seen two individuals racing at 4 miles an hour, basically slow motion, to try to get a ball in a corner of basically a go-kart track, you've never laughed harder in your life. So it's a great time. It's a lot of great networking, and if you can make it November 18th in Chicago, please join us. I'd be more than happy to get you all of the information that you need so that you would be able to join us there. A lot of times I get asked, what are the locals? What does it mean to be part of the locals? Give us an example of, how do you define yourself, or how are the locals defined? And I think I can really describe it summed up in a couple different ways. So SHFM to me, I'm a part of a lot of different organizations, but the SHFM to me is family. And when you think about how the SHFM network is and how they treat each other, it's really about taking care of your own members and making sure you're giving everybody a hand up and working together and coordinating as best you can. And the best example of recent that I saw was actually at the Young Professionals Conference. So an individual who's part of the Hunger Games team, Natalia out of Jane Street, she has some specific dietary needs, and she went up to one of the chefs that was working, Damien, at the event in New York, spoke about her dietary needs. The individual couldn't take care of her at the moment because of her dietary needs. She walked away. She said, okay, no problem. She walked away. She came back to the main conferencing or the main networking table. Within 5 minutes, she had exactly what she was looking for. And that moment of magic of this being her first event, seeing what happens when you get together as a group, it really made an impact on her. And what I really wanted to say is that defines who we are. Those little things like that is exactly who SHFM, the foundation, as well as the board of directors, to all the members, that's who we are. And if you get a chance, please sign up for National Conference. We look forward to seeing you in Amelia Island. And don't forget to sign up for Hunger Games.
Got to get that last plug in there, Bob. Thanks. And last on our list for our committees is our membership marketing committee. I'm going to turn it over to Amy Lewis, who leads the committee as a whole, and she has some other introductions for the heads of the various subcommittees and all the work that they've had going on this year. So Amy, over to you.
Great, thanks, Damien. I'm Amy Lewis. I'm with Kitchens to Go, and I have the pleasure of chairing the membership marketing committee. As some of you may know, we used to have two committees. There was the marketing committee and there was the membership committee. And about a year ago, we brought the two together so that we were working as a unit because a lot of the work we were doing on the two committees was very similar. And I got to tell you, the team rocks. We've got a great active group, not only on the subcommittees, but also on the monthly calls we have and some of the special projects that you're going to hear a little bit more about later. But our primary goals are to market SHFM and our brand to the industry, to recruit new members, obviously, and then really to engage our current members to make sure that we are staying true to why they joined, and that we are staying relevant for what their needs are going forward. And obviously, as we all know, COVID was a challenging time for everyone. And so we spent a lot of time just reaching out to members to make sure they were doing okay and see how we could connect people, to make sure that we were doing, as we were talking about, that family check-in with all of our members to make sure that we were supporting each other. So with that, I'm going to just go over some quick numbers, and then I'm going to turn it over to our fabulous subcommittee chairs to talk about the work of their committees. So as of September 30th, we have 771 members, as compared to 680 at the same time last year. So I'm really excited about that. Within those numbers, we've got 52 COVID relief members. As you will know, those were those that were displaced due to the pandemic, and SHFM reached out to those that were either within our hospitality family or anyone that was in the hospitality industry to offer a membership to be part of the SHM family and our great information. And then within that, we've got 152 COVID extension members, and those are memberships that will expire in December. And so Edward and his team are working really hard to engage those members and bring them in for renewal in 22. And as I said, the subcommittees have been doing some great work, and I'm going to go in the order that I think they go in terms of our marketing team, which is led by one of our rising stars, Michael Moore, followed by Ed Lowe, who kind of was voluntold halfway through the year when Dennis Bell had to step away. We reached out and said, hey, you're new to the committee, but would you mind kind of taking over recruitment and see what you can do with that? Again, a rising star. And then we've got our fabulous Amy Bendekovitz, who is one of our young professionals who's going to close out with engagement. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll jump in and go ahead and go first. My name is Michael Moore, and I head up the subcommittee membership marketing. I want to talk about three main objectives that we are looking to close out for this year. The first was, in conjunction with Edward's team, was to revamp the homepage on the website. We wanted it to be much more clear as to the benefits SHFM brings. We wanted a clear call to action, which is more people should join. And we wanted to show more active membership in there. So we had testimonials added. We're in the process of continually adding new content to it. We wanted to make something that is very dynamic and engaging and draws people in that aren't really aware of the benefits that SHFM has. We all know outside or inside looking out what it is, but outside looking in, it wasn't always as clear. So we hope to take a right step in that direction by revamping the homepage. The next big thing we did was we worked on a podcast for this year. Danny Penderson had an idea at the beginning of the year that we wanted to talk about bringing more people in that weren't quite as active in SHFM, and it spiraled into this great concept of how do we connect great concepts that are universally applicable in hospitality and food service, and how do we connect interesting people with great backgrounds and great stories. So that's what we did there, and we've just launched it in this last week. I hope everybody's had a chance to sign up, spread the word. It's available on Apple Podcasts. It's available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, several other platforms. But please, it's called Served by SHFM. Take a look and let us know what your thoughts are. And then, the last thing is at National Conference, we want to find a great way to drive engagement between new members that aren't as familiar with how great this organization is. They're really just they're taking their first steps into joining us and want to see what we can bring to the table. And how do we connect them with more established members? And at the same time, how do we re-engage those established members, someone that's maybe been a part of SHFM for a number of years, but hasn't been as active in the last few? How do we bring them together so that everybody sees the benefits of this great organization? And we'll touch more on that, and I think you'll see something fun at National Conference for that as well. Edward, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Edward. On the recruitment committee, our focus is to recruit people to join SHFM as members and try to grow the membership base. We've been targeting non-members that have attended local events and the YP Summit. Our goal is try to get their feedback if they see if they see value in the organization and event, and try to inspire them to join. This year, we've also implemented a membership referral program. If you don't know what that is, Amy B, who will speak next, will share more details with you and the prizes you can win with you shortly. I strongly encourage everyone to participate. Lastly, some of the best members from SHFM are members who are engaged, they get involved, and usually referred by other SHFM members. So I have a small ask to each and everyone here today. I ask that all of you, if you can think of one or two people you know that might benefit from SHFM. I ask that today, if you can commit to sharing with them the SHFM website, the SHFM podcast, maybe a LinkedIn post, maybe share with them your story, your experience with SHFM, or even put them in touch with me. Because the future of SHFM depends on your support and involvement. So let's continue to grow SHFM together. And Amy B.
Great. Hi, everyone. So I am the chair of the membership engagement, which is a very busy committee most days. So our job is to engage new members and old members. Everyone in this room knows and remembers the day when they were new and kind of that awkward, nerve-wracking feeling kind of stepping into this huge room, especially at conference, of people who have been in the industry for years. So we want to make that process better from an onboarding perspective, but we also want to make our older members feel like, you know, they're important as well and that we want them to all be engaged. So a couple of the things that we've been working on this year, first and foremost, was our focus group work. Some of you on this call may have been targeted in a focus group. We broke them out by membership category, so we're really able to target what some of the issues and the good things were of our organization. We went into this with very critical lenses, and we got, you know, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, but it gave us a chance to kind of reset, create an action plan, that of which you're a part of today. So this quarterly call that we do, Damien's call, we made this part of the action plan, and here we are into fruition. So a lot of things are already into play through that action plan, through the focus groups. And moving forward, we will continue to take temperature checks of said focus groups. Our next one we're hoping to do after conference to kind of get temperature checks for more people as to, you know, how do you feel right after conference, so on and so forth. We also launched the membership engagement matrix. Yes, we are measuring your engagement in SHFM. So we do have that broken out by person and by category. So if you're not engaged, we know. But we encourage people obviously to get more involved because we are starting to look at that. We're looking at what segments are the least engaged and which segments are the most engaged, because that'll drive the future events and the programming that we do. We recently hosted a virtual new member happy hour with myself and Damien. This was a couple days before the Young Professional Summit, and it was a super fun, involved Zoom where we zoomed around different breakout rooms and we played a little bit of human bingo, and it was so fun. We're looking to do a couple more of those coming up. And then, as Edward had mentioned, we do have the referral program, which was just sent out in your SHFM at work. So if you're looking for specifics, it's in there as well. But we are awarding 3 top prizes for the 3 top referrers of SHFM. When you fill out your membership application, or your friend does, they're able to input your name into there as the person who told you about SHFM. The top prize is going to be a complimentary national conference registration, which is obviously a pretty big value. So we're thrilled to give that away. The second highest referrer is going to be receiving a complimentary critical issues conference registration. And then the third highest will be a local or networking smaller event complimentary registration. So all 3 great prizes, and you will be recognized during this year's national conference. So like Edward said, you know, bring your friends and make sure they put your name down, because there'll be something in it for you. So thanks.
Thank you, Amy, Edward, Michael, and Amy Lewis as well. And thank you to all the leads of all our committees for sharing so much that's gone on this year. And now, folks, it's time for us to hear from you. So if you have a question you would like to ask one of our committee leads while we have them here, or you would like to ask of myself or the SHFM staff, you can either raise your hand virtually through Zoom, You can simply ask your question, unmute yourself and ask if you would like, or you can also drop the questions into the chat as well. And I see a few people have already done that. So I have a couple questions that came my way through the chat. And we're going to start off with one I see here about the foundation. So Janine, the question was asked, the money that the foundation raises, where does that money, what does that money go towards?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that money all goes to all those fabulous programs I was speaking about before, from scholarshiping students to attend national conference or critical issues, to assisting our military personnel or service people attend the Hennessy program when we have it in person, to assist and direct displaced hospitality, displaced hospitality staff workers, all of our funds go directly to those programs. We are a 501c3, so, we're able to really take every last penny that we get and pour it into those great initiatives.
Great, thank you. So I'll open it up to the floor here. I have a couple other questions that came my way, but we'll definitely want to give the opportunity to those who are live with us right now on the call. So any questions that you would like to ask of our committee leads? Scrolling through, making sure I don't miss a raised hand anywhere. I will go ahead and ask one of the other questions that I was sent. Michael, so for you with the podcast, the new initiative that you talked about, what is the goal of the podcast and what type of guests are you looking for?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a question I do get asked a lot. The goal of the podcast is really to connect interesting stories and interesting people within SHFM and our membership that haven't been heard from before or as much. Maybe they're newer to it. Maybe they're they have a great story in our industry, but it hasn't been heard yet. They're not quite as active. We want to connect those people and get their point of view on certain topics that are trending within the industry. And I think what this does is it really brings to light that you don't need the traditional background. You don't have to have the traditional career path or goals in order to be really successful in our industry. What you really need to do is have a passion for helping others, for the culinary and hospitality worlds. And these stories, I think, really help connect those things, as well as, highlighting interesting topics, things that are trending right now and are coming up.
Excellent. And I know you mentioned there's another episode of the podcast coming out this Monday. Do we have any more after that, or are you trying to look for some things immediate?
We do. We have 4 taped right now. We have 2 more that are being set to tape in the next few days to a few weeks. And after that, I think we'd like to get to 10 episodes by the end of the year. So I've gotten a few suggestions in my inbox. I'm michael@restaurantware.com. If you have thoughts on it, you think someone might be interesting, they don't necessarily have to be a member of SHFM. We'd prefer it, but just someone with a great story to tell and, who has knowledge to share on certain topics. I'd love to entertain any and all ideas.
Okay, great. Thank you. Taking a look to see what other questions have come in here. I do have one here, Bob, that has to do with the locals. Someone asked, how can I start a local in my area?
Yeah, great question. So obviously, when it comes to locals and being able to support the locals, it's critical mass, right? So we need to make sure that we have enough involvement in that area to be able to form a local. A great example of that would be, Florida was one that just came on during the pandemic, right? And has turned itself into a local. Now, Florida, the local itself may be moving from city to city because it's obviously such a big state and different major metropolitan areas. Same thing for California. But more than happy to entertain creating a local in any specific area and working with everyone on the call to make sure that we are meeting the needs from a local standpoint of all of our SHFM members.
Okay, and Bob, if you can hang right there with me, because another question that just came in is it's from Matt Rigney. So asks, SHFM always does a great job of picking food organizations to donate to and support. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process of how these organizations are selected?
Yeah, happy to. And actually, it's a big part of the IAB and the vetting process that goes through the IAB that was started by Shane and Mike, as well as myself and David and everybody else involved. But really what we try to do is we take a look at where we're going for conference. We try to understand who are the major players, so to speak, from a charity standpoint that are handing out food right to folks in need. And then we go through the vetting process because we try to make sure that they are of the right mind, so to speak. Everybody has their own unique attributes as far as the charities go, but who, much like Gracie's Kitchen, is driving the most dollars towards the people that are actually in need, doesn't necessarily have a large bloated overhead or may have different views or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of background checks. There's a lot of vetting that goes through. There's different organizations that are floated through everybody throughout the SHFM board of directors to the foundation to everyone. So it is an involved process. It usually takes quite a few months, but that's how we go about trying to select the right recipients for Hunger Games to make sure that we're choosing the right people. And it doesn't help this year that obviously Damien has a long history with Gracie's Kitchen and is able to speak to the benefits of that group.
And thanks, Bob. I have a couple more questions that have been sent my way. Sumi, I think you touched on this a little bit when you were giving your recap, but could you share for the group what are the areas where the DNI Council is needing some help with all the various initiatives that you have going on right now?
Yeah, so we have a lot of people, but we could definitely use more help. People who are interested in leading something or sharing their ideas. So I would just share a couple of topics that are probably focus areas for us for the next couple months. We want to do this session on allyship. So we, Jessica and Z, I'm sure could use some help in terms of like brainstorming speakers and what is it that we're trying to address and like what is the call to action coming out of that. So that's a big one. Supplier diversity, that work is underway in terms of kind of building some kind of toolkit for the industry. So anybody who has expertise in that area would be greatly appreciated if you want to be part of that discussion. And the affinity groups as well. So again, if you have interest in some of the areas I mentioned, disability, veteran, the minority groups, women, we're looking to start those up, and we're not going to start them up and make them available. We rather have people who are really passionate about it lead it, so that they can we make sure that there's like a long runway for these groups and they don't kind of fizzle out. And then I guess the final thing is really these social spotlights. So, if you want to do some writing, if you want to think of people to highlight, if you want to nominate yourself, we just need more suggestions. And it's a great way to give yourself visibility, to help celebrate and make SHFM a more inclusive group. And again, it doesn't have to be the traditional kind of buckets. It can be like maybe there's a holiday or some kind of hobby that means a lot to you. And there's always like National Something Day, right? So, we're open. If you look at our Instagram, there's a lot. I think we're not afraid to speak out. And I think we also love recognizing people and celebrating success. So we could definitely use help with that. And that's pretty much it. Yes, definitely reach out if you're interested, because I think it's just been a really challenging year and a half. And so everybody's so busy with their day jobs, but really appreciate everybody who's stepped up or taken the time to be on the calls. We know that, it might not be your moment to do more, but we're hoping at some point to, keep you engaged. And, there might be a time when you feel like you can lead something, and perhaps that time is now. So.
Okay, thank you. Got a few more that have been sent my way. Raquel, this one is for you. Can you tell us how does someone go about getting involved with the IAB?
Well, actually, Damien, 2 people just messaged me on the side about that. So perfect timing. So the Industry Advisory Board is very special in a sense that you do have to be nominated and elected to become part of the board. We recently did update this year the terms and bylaws for the IAB. So it is a 3-year term. And, as I mentioned, you do get nominated. So that being said, I would like to say that it's definitely helps if the more you're involved in other committees, and the presence that you bring in the organization. So when that time comes and we're discussing who we're nominating for the next slate for the following year to come, those names do pop up. You do need to be a supplier. That's definitely the first step. I don't know if any of you want to make a career change for that, but but maybe. So I certainly do suggest and highly recommend getting involved in your committees. Foundations would be a great one, membership, anywhere where you can help and contribute, the locals, to really just get familiar with the organization as a whole. We also do have opportunities to work with the IAB throughout the year, not necessarily just being on the IAB. So sometimes there's calls for volunteers, Hunger Game volunteer work. You may want to wear the referee shirt during the game and not actually play. There are those opportunities. So I will also say, though, that if it is something that you are very much interested in, certainly reach out to me or your fellow IAB members, so we can keep that name in the back of our heads.
Okay, thank you, Raquel. And I have one more question that's been sent my way, and I'm really not sure who to ask this one of. So we may kind of let a few people give their input on this. And the question is, with National Conference right around the corner, what is the one thing you have to do or know about attending National Conference? Start with some folks who have been there. I know Bob's answer. I see him spelling out Hunger Games in his cheerleader letters, and David entering it into the chat. Yes, Hunger Games is definitely high on the list. But for other things, not to put anyone on the spot, but I will. Amy Lewis, what would you say is the one thing that someone should really know or plan on doing when they attend National Conference? Amy, is she on mute? Okay, I'm not seeing her. So Bob, let's go, if you can mind answering that one for me. Besides Hunger Games.
All right, besides Hunger Games, okay. Well, obviously, all of the general sessions, right, are there's a lot of time that goes into planning of the conference from the conference planning committee, right? And in addition to the topics, it's also the speakers and how that content is delivered. And I think the structure of each of those general sessions and how the planning committee and FSA put all of the conference materials and events together, I think is key. So I guess what I would say is don't skip out, right? I know emails come in, all the different things kind of happen. There's breaks and stuff. Go to those general sessions, listen to the content, understand what's going on within the hospitality industry, add to the content, right? There's definitely some Q&A portions of it, but be involved.
Okay, and I see where a couple of people have entered into the chat. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself. Definitely some good advice there. Justin Drew leaning in. What you put in is what you will get out. I would like to call on one person who I see is on the call today, just because I think they would be able to provide a great perspective as to what you can get on National Conference. So if he doesn't mind, Mike Johnston, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the group, sir, what you think is something someone should put down as the most important thing about attending National Conference.
Sure, Damien. I'm looking at those comments from Justin and Matt Rigney and Dave, and I just think back to my early days with SHFM, where I thought it was just a food show. And I thought it was my job to take clients or customers off and go golfing. And I couldn't be more incorrect as to what to do. You're there to engage, meet people, have fun, let them know who you are, introduce yourself as a resource, see how you can network with others. And I think Damien or David started off early in this conversation today saying this is all about family. SHFM is truly, truly a family. And it just doesn't get any better than this group. I've been retired for a couple of years now, and I keep on coming back. So, it's really well worth it. please attend, get yourself engaged, go to every event, every lunch, every dinner, every breakfast, and just have some fun.
Thank you, Mike. I couldn't.
Can I just add something?
Couldn't agree. Yeah, absolutely. Sam.
So just piggybacking off of everything everybody has said, definitely don't wait to be asked. I would just say, see how you can get involved. I think, Bob mentioned that, but really, like, sometimes people don't know you're available to help and you may want to, but you don't know how to ask. Just ask somebody, like on a committee or one of the folks hosting or committee leaders. I just think it's great. It's the best thing for me was to get involved like from the first conference. So if you feel inspired, just like go for it and don't wait for somebody to ask you. You might get voluntold, but take up the challenge. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Sammy. I think how I really got involved was I was at a national conference and I can't remember, I made a comment about, well, here's a couple ideas that I have that I think might could work. And the next year I'm on the planning committee. So if you speak up, we will find something for you to do. That is for sure. Well, I want to thank everyone again for joining us virtually today. Before we end our call, I did want to let you know that SHFM will be making a call for volunteers for next year's committees. It's a great way, as you found throughout the call today, to get involved with SHFM and to get to learn and meet some more of your fellow industry colleagues, as well as help plan the future of SHFM. So be on the lookout in your inbox this afternoon for that call for volunteers coming your way. Again, thank you all for being here to support us. We look forward to future SHFM Town Hall meetings, and we hope that you found this session both helpful and informative. Thank you all again for joining and hope to see all of you soon in Amelia Island.